AI itself, given that, is like a force multiplier. It's like gasoline. It's going to make a small fire much bigger and potentially out of control, right? If your systems are weak, your errors are going to scale exponentially. If the team isn't aligned, AI is just going to introduce confusion and frustration. If your processes are undocumented, AI is going to create chaos and not clarity.
This is the Business Owners Smashing It Online podcast for entrepreneurs and business owners looking for cool online tools, apps and strategies to make business easy online. My name is Nick Cree and I'm your host. Each episode features a guest expert demystifying the online universe, sharing inspirational ideas and providing tested real-world strategies to help you get the most of what's available online to grow your business today. Don't be a slave to your business, get your business working for you. Subscribe now and get some great content and ideas for you and your business today. Fabulous. All right. Well, now it brings me to the part of the evening that I really enjoy. Not that I don't enjoy that first part as well, but tonight we have someone who has been described as the gift wrapped in sandpaper. So we have Azim, who is a regular here as well too. He is a business coach, AI strategist, business success accelerator. He's got lots of things that he could describe himself as. I don't think I could even start to describe him as well as he can describe himself. So some of you will know him from having been on the show before. It is going to be an interactive session tonight. He is going to be talking about how AI potentially could be the demise of your business. But by the end of tonight, hopefully you'll realize that actually there's some good things that you can use it for too that will help to accelerate your business. So let's put your hands together. Welcome to the floor, Azim.
Thanks, Nick. I just want to, some familiar faces. I was a bit concerned for a minute because when I was looking through, there was just all blokes, right? But there is some ladies who are hiding and lurking in the back. Well, that's interesting that the turn up about AI was all blokes. So the ladies know everything there is to know already. So that's fine. The interesting thing is just to qualify it as well is that just from Alan's point of view, is that everything I'm going to say from here on in is a lie. So now I'm off the hook with Alan, right? So he can now figure out what I'm telling is the truth. But so the interesting thing is, first of all, that like as Nick said, there's nothing for sale here tonight, but there's nothing for you to sell but the caveat on that is that I'm going to ask you to buy into some new ways of thinking, right? And it's really interesting because what we're seeing, and I like to call it the AI Kool-Aid that's coming, it has been coming for a while. It's not like something new. There's this AI hype that it's going to fix everything. It's going to take over the world. It's going to kill us in our sleep. The reality is, what we call AI is just a new label for things that we've had for a while. And people are confusing AI with automation, all sorts of things. And then what I'm seeing a lot of is AI will transform your business overnight, particularly in the advisory space, high ticket offers without even speaking to your clients, right? And but what it is really good at is analyzing large volumes of data quickly and clarifying a lead generation. And I'll talk a little bit about some examples that my clients are using AI to help clarify their lead generation. But Nick actually said something very interesting before when he was talking about Google. And when you go to do a search on Google, what you find is the AI basically intercepts everything before that, right? After that, like, the people who are paying money to have their sponsored thing. And as you know, or as you likely know, that Google AdWords is essentially an auction, right? It works in the same way as an auction house. That's why you can pay a lot of money for key terms. And we've had huge businesses built on SEO and all that sort of thing, which are all good. But if that's how Google makes a lot of its money, a lot of its revenue from AdWords and things like that, then to introduce AI as a means of saying, because searching has gone down by 30-something% because people like myself, I will use Perplexity or ChatGPT to do my searches and I won't use Google. So someone has gone, oh, well, we better have an AI function in Google. But what they've actually done is now, why would I keep paying for AdWords if people aren't even getting as far as my AdWords? So that's a potential demise in a huge, a huge ecosystem. So it's being able to see that's the case. And so I'm glad you brought that up, Nick, because that's a really interesting thing that we're actually seeing. All right. So what's the answer for, and Nick also mentioned this, what's the answer for all of us out here? Well, write content, put content out there. The more content you can put out there, good content, not rubbish, then when people are searching using AI rather than Google and whatever they're using as their search engine, they start picking up your stuff. All right. And so one thing is really important, and I did a graphic demonstration of this probably about 6 months ago. For every day we move forward with AI, the value of knowledge is approaching zero. Okay. There is very little value in just providing knowledge to people. I don't care what your business is. Your expertise and your experience, very important, right? But just pumping out knowledge is not good. And I gave a great example. I have two associates who are advisors, and we were talking about it, and they said, "Oh, and they're in their 50s, and they've been pumping people through." That's probably not fair. They've been putting people through their coaching process for 15, 20 years, getting great results. So don't get me wrong. Anyway, we were having this conversation. They're going, "Oh, yeah, but is that really true about the knowledge of approaching zero?" And I said, "Well, let me give you an example." So I just opened up Perplexity and I said, as a broad prompt as possible, what's Azim's opinion on business? That's about as a broad a prompt to go. And in like 10 seconds, not even that, it rattled out this 2-pager, which pretty much summarized my view on business. And there was one little error that it made, but it showed Perplexity is great because it tends to show you, where it got the information from. It had gone to podcasts I did. I think it even went to one that I did with you, Nick, and articles and everything. And then they said, "Well, that's interesting." And then I said to one of the gentlemen, I said, "Okay, what's a question that one of your clients might ask you?" And he said what it was, and it was about lead generation. And then we put into the prompt, what would, let's call him Mr. X, say about this particular challenge? And in 30 seconds, it pulled up and he just went white. And he said, "Oh my God, that's exactly what I would have told." And I said, "Yeah, because you've got so much content out there over the last 20 years that we can do that." So your value now as an advisor is to help integrate the information. It's not just provide the information. So that's to illustrate the point of the value of the information itself is really not is zero. So really, the thing that's really important, and this is what this talk is about, is you've got to look at your business fundamentals. Now, all businesses, and I don't care how big it is, are essentially the same, right? And the easiest way to remember it is an acronym that I like to use, which is ACDC, right? Like the rock band. So all businesses will acquire a prospect, right? So everybody on here, put your hands up. We all acquire prospects, right? Then C, we convert that prospect into a client. Okay, we all agree that every business does that. The D is we deliver our products or services. And the last C is we collect the money, right? And generally when I do this in a talk, like a live talk, people will make in other parts of the world, people always make some joke about Highway to Hell or another ACDC song. And I always say, yeah, if you don't collect the cash at the end, you are on the highway to hell, right? That's essentially what happens. But here's the interesting insight that I can provide you is every problem that I've encountered in the last 10 years in a business boils down to systems that are broken or are not there. Okay. So essentially, AI is just going to accelerate that problem. So it's like trying to run faster on a bung knee. It's just not going to work. And because people are, as I said, drinking this Kool-Aid thing, oh, I could use AI for lead generation or whatever it is. It's just producing results for them that they are struggling to do. Like if I said to everybody, and I can only see like 6 of you on the call at the moment, but if I said to everybody here, or we just do it in the chat, if I triple the number of leads coming into your business tomorrow, could you deal with them? Could you onboard them? Could you look after them? Could you service them at the level that you're doing now? Let's just put it in the chat and see what people think. I mean, that's what everyone says. Oh yeah, we could do all these leads, but is that true? That would be an issue for a lot of businesses that I know. And the other thing, and this is really, really interesting. Yeah, Mike's on it. Good on you, Mike. Right, we'll go 5 times for you, Mike. Right. But the other interesting thing is that if you look at the majority of businesses that fail, and I'm not talking about just small ones, I'm talking about large ones as well. And this is an important note to take, is that quite often, in fact, more often than not, from my experience and observations of other people I work with, they fail because they are doing the right things in the wrong order. So what do I mean by that? So here's a great example. I often will have people come to me and say, hey, Azim, I'd love to generate more leads for my business, right? I'd love to have more sales or grow my business by X amount. My first answer, and this is probably where I got the nickname about the gift wrapping sandpaper, would be, so with Nick, I'd say, right, Nick, that's fantastic. How many clients did you lose last year? And I can tell you now that the majority of people can't tell you straight off the bat. How many clients stopped purchasing with you, stopped buying your products and services, or you lost? If you've got a small business, then maybe. But in general, and the reality is for most businesses, they'll lose up to 20% of their clients each year on average. And it's not because you're doing a terrible job. It's because you're no longer relevant. It's because they've forgotten about you. It's because they moved away. They no longer need that service. There's a whole lot of reasons. So we'd all agree, and you can just raise your hands, we'd all agree that acquiring new clients is the right thing to do, right? Of course it is. But we'd also agree that retaining our existing clients that we work really, really hard to get is also a good thing to do, right? But if we're not focusing on retaining our clients before we go out looking for new ones, then what we're actually doing is filling a bucket with holes in the bottom. And you see that again and again and again. And that's what I mean by focusing on doing the right things in the wrong order. And it's terrible because it sneaks up on you. Because you're out there doing all the right things and thinking that's wonderful, but somewhere in your business, and when you're doing the right things in the right order, business is fantastic. But often, so that's a very graphic example of doing the right things in the wrong order. So AI itself, given that, is like a force multiplier. It's like gasoline. It's going to make a small fire much bigger and potentially out of control, right? If your systems are weak, your errors are going to scale exponentially. If the team isn't aligned, AI is just going to introduce confusion and frustration. If your processes are undocumented, AI is going to create chaos and not clarity. And I see that a lot, right? So the checklist, really, if you want to look at, is, are your fundamentals in place before you implement AI? Say, are my processes clear, repeatable, and documented? And that's even if you're a one-person business. Like my practice is me, and I bring, like a movie studio, if I've got a big project on, I will assemble the cast to produce the results for the client. But I have very clear processes which are clear, repeatable, and documented. So, I know what I need to do. If you run a team, does your team understand and own the business's core mission, right? Is the data accurate, relevant, and accessible? So you've got to look at how you can pressure test your business to make sure it is ready for AI, right? So you've got to think of AI as essentially, you've got to shift from thinking of it as a solution, which a lot of people do. And if you actually look at a lot of the advertisements and things that are out there, it says, use AI to generate all your posts, right? Use AI to talk to your clients. Use AI to do this, this, and this. The reality is it doesn't take very long to see what's written by AI, and the people who are used to seeing it, it becomes quite evident that it's not, your stuff, right? It's somebody else's stuff. And so really, you've got to consider it as a catalyst for necessary conversations about system strategy and readiness, right? Frame AI as a mirror and not as a magic wand. Now, one of the key things that you can use that AI is valuable for is a lot of people, including nobody in this call, right? But what a lot of people do is, and this is how we open this conversation, they use it as a replacement for a search engine, right? They don't look at AI as a strategic partner in your business. Now, I'll give you a great example. And I was just doing this yesterday with a client, and they were talking about their offer and all that sort of thing. Oh, my offer's not converting and I'm not really sure, and I get these objections. Well, just as an aside, objections are a really good thing, because the more objections you get, the better qualified the person is when they sign up. Okay. There's everybody out there teaching you how to get around objections thing, but objections are just questions that they don't understand yet. So that's just a little aside to think about. But what we did with this particular person was we took their offer, and I encourage all of you to do the same thing. Take your offer, write it down, plug it into one of the AIs, and just attach it as a document. And then the prompt is something as simple as, using the attached document, I now want you to take on the role of, and then describe your perfect client. And then ask me one question at a time about my offer. You'd be surprised what it comes up. Because what it's actually going to do is going to come up with the objections and pick all the holes in your offer. And that's going to help you refine your thing. And then it's just going to help you refine it. And then when you do go out with it, it's actually much better. So here's a great another example. I just come back from an advisors group over in the US, and there was a lady there. She actually helped scale Instagram from 720 million users to 1.4 billion users of Instagram. So she kind of knows the stuff. Anyway, so we were seeing that she's got another company of her own now, and so this is where we're using AI as a thought partner rather than just like a search engine and all that sort of stuff. We took all of the numbers for her business. We took the original pitch deck when she was raising a round of funding for the business. We took some emails from investors of what they would be expecting to get out of the business. I stripped all of the names out so there was nothing that could leak out, changed it to different names. And we put all of that in there. We were using Perplexity. And then we asked Perplexity, he said, right, I would like you to take on the role of a very successful CEO of a Fortune 100 company and ask us one question at a time. That's an important clue, by the way. Ask it one question at a time. Ask me one question at a time as to how we could 10x this business in 2 years. When you ask it stuff like that, make sure you have plenty of popcorn available, right? Because it goes down the rabbit hole. And we spent pretty much nearly 2 hours conversing with Perplexity about it, and the insights that it provided her. First of all, she was frustrated because, shit, I knew I should have done that, right? But then there was data that we didn't have that we had to find. So AI became a very valuable thought partner for her. And then when we extracted all of that, now we have the next iteration. So everything that came out of that, we created a new thing. So that's AI as a thought partner. I know people, and I've helped one, we actually have an AI board, right? So you can actually assemble a board with, depending on your industry, you can think of the titans of your industry. So let's say it was tech, you could have Steve Jobs on your board. You could have Bezos on your board. You could have somebody, a whole bunch of people that you would admire as your virtual board, and say, right, I want you guys to give me your input on this next strategy we're doing. Now, the number of people who are not using AI for that, and that works for everyone on this call, can do that with their business. Everyone. One guy does something really cool, and he actually has his future self on his board, which I think is freaking awesome, right? So he's figured out what he wants to be in 10 years' time, and that's the persona he's put. So asking myself of the future, what decision I should make now, it's fun if you play with it, okay? So does everybody, can everybody understand, well, not so much understand, can everybody see how that can be a benefit with your own business, right? This is using it as a thought part. You have access to everything this is why they're large language models. You have access to everything that everyone's ever done, everything in the field that you're looking at. Don't just use it as a search engine. But again, this is why if those fundamentals aren't there and you're just using it to, hey, we can generate more leads or whatever, your business will actually suffer. And drastically. And unfortunately, you may not see it coming. Okay. There are many other great ways to use artificial intelligence. So here's an example. I have a client in New Zealand. We are trying to, actually, no, I have another one in Australia, we're doing the same thing. And he runs an automotive tuning service where they, soup up your hotted up car. And we're not talking about Subarus, we're talking about AMG Mercedes and Porsche and all that sort of thing. So they're pretty, they're not inexpensive cars. So what was happening was the salespeople were getting overwhelmed with the number of leads coming in. So qualifying the leads was an issue. So what we now have AI doing is now AI is producing the first response. So Nick in his Lamborghini says, right, I'd like to tune my Lamborghini to go faster, so to match my shirt. And then what would happen is AI will go straight back, look at what's in his email and on the website where he's put the original inquiry, says, hey, Nick, thanks for making an inquiry about your Lamborghini. Before we start looking at that, here are some questions that we'd love to get from. So we have a template of questions. So we immediately put it back on Nick. So that response is now in Nick's court again, and then he comes back with a few things. And then based on the information you've provided us, it would look like this. And an estimate of what that would be, it will start at whatever it is, $2,500 to do a basic tune. So what's happening there is that toing and froing with AI is of the database of all the information that we've ever had, is actually qualifying the lead to the point where if it's just, pardon the pun, a tire kicker who's just looking for a price, well, they get the answer they need. So now what's happening is the sales guy is able to focus on high quality leads, and we're increasing the number of sales that we're making. So that's where you can use AI to do it. Me personally, I've got a private GPT that I've put all of my emails in, sent emails for, wow, probably about 8 years. And now when I get emails that aren't high priority, I can say, create a draft as me of these emails. And the drafts that it sends back are pretty good, right? Because it's answering it in my voice, in my tone, and whatever the thing's about, it's got the answers there, right? So you can use these, particularly if you guys have got businesses which have high information, an advisory business or whatever, use it as a tool. And don't be afraid, and I'm absolutely not afraid. I will sit down with clients and say, right, let's use AI and do this together. The fact that I can show them how to use it increases my value to them. All right. So it's still asking the right questions. So any questions around that, just to start with, is that a different view for people in terms of how you can successfully use AI to actually accelerate business, right? Rather than just it's just not something to do. So is there any questions around there, Nick? Hang on, we've got some. I'll just open the chat. Correct. So yeah, Dennis, you've got to make sure your core business, if your core business isn't strong, it's not going to help you. And there was a lot of people out there marketing that this is the answer, this is what it's going to do. But the reality is it's a super powerful thing that we've got. We can just literally accelerate our answers. And by the way, I had something funny happen not that long ago. I was using ChatGPT 4 for something, and we're having this conversation, and it picked up the cadence of me answering the questions it was putting to me and going forward. And then I went and made a cup of tea, and I came back, and it actually had a prompt that said, "Azim, are you still there?" Right? And which totally freaked me out. Holy crap, right? Because it had picked up the to-ing and fro-ing. I was asking questions, I was coming back, and then there was this big break while I made tea, and it said, "Are you still there?" And I said, "Yeah, I just popped out for a tea." And then it said, "Well, I hope that was, would you like to continue?" Right. So, like I said, bring the popcorn, because it's and just think about what it is that you want to find. I mean, I can't see anybody on this call who would not be able to put their offer in, as I said, and then say, "Hey, what are the questions that somebody in my target market would say?" All right. So here's the interesting thing: is when we talk about having fundamentals on your business, if it's okay with everybody here, I'd like to share some of the things that I talk about that for you guys to think about is what are the fundamentals, and aside from the AC/DC thing, one of the first things when I'm working with clients is we work out what is your model for success. Okay, who is doing something, or what business is doing something like you're doing that has been successful? And from the introductions and what I can see, nearly everybody on this call, there will be somebody with a similar model for success. So it's not like we're Elon trying to send somebody to Mars, but then again, there's a bit of a model for success for him there too, right? So I look at, okay, so the majority of my work is one-on-one consulting, okay, or actually advisory. Do between coaching and consulting, the whole thing, whatever you need, right? And I had a story about that, which I told Nick about, so what do you do? And so if there's a model for success for your business, then that's great. Okay. Then the next thing is what we term the center of gravity of your business. So this is a bit of a business bonus, if you like. And what do I mean by the center of gravity? You can have an extractive approach, or you can have an integrative approach. And an extractive approach is, okay, I need to have, okay, I'll give you an example. I have a client who has runs singles events. When we first started working together, he said, "I would like to get 80 people on average to all of these events." And I said, "Great." And then we talked about it a little while. So that's an extractive approach, meaning I want to get these numbers. It wasn't about the money he wants to get. I mean, that's a side effect, but I want to get these numbers to all my events. So this is number thing, right? 80 people average per event. And then we spoke about it for a while, and I said, okay, so why do people go to a singles event? And so, one, have a good time. And he had actually experienced it when he went to London, right? One, to have a bit of a good time. Two, potentially to make new friends. Three, meet someone. And I said, so, okay, why don't we make your measure of success the number of people who swap telephone numbers at the event rather than the number of people who turn up at the event? And that's the integrative approach. It's basically, what does success look like for your client, and measure that, right? And then we started sending out SMSs after it. Hey, hey, Alan, thanks for coming to the, I know Alan's not single, right? Hey, Alan, come, hey, thanks for coming to the event last night. Hope you had a great time. Just a quick question. Did you have a good time? Yes or no? And B, did you swap numbers with somebody? And as it turned out, because he'd never done that before, and as it turned out, nearly 70% of the people that went to events swapped numbers with somebody. So that marketing just said itself, hey, come to these events. 70% of the people that attend events end up swapping numbers with somebody. It just wrote it out, and we put that out, and all of a sudden the number of people coming to events increased. So that's about being an integrator. So for me, people say, well, who's your perfect client? Is it? Well, my perfect client is the client who gets the result that they're after. Right? If I have to have a broad thing, I work with established business owners. But my perfect client is the one who gets the result. So think about that as to when you're thinking about your own business, don't think, well, I need to get, of course, we need to put food on the table and all that sort of thing. That's important. But try to move the way you work to measure the success of your client. You know, when we see the programs advertised on the internet and whatever, they say, hey, you know, so-and-so made $12 million or whatever they made, doesn't matter. I don't doubt that that's true. But the reality is only 30% of people ever complete online courses. And those people who got those results may represent 1 to 2% of the people who ever took the course. So I encourage you all to start looking at, okay, how successful is my client, and use that as your approach. Okay. When you start looking at your business that way, then it will open up a whole lot of different ways that AI is going to help you achieve that result, not just produce more clients. Okay. And it comes back to do the right things in the right order. And the third thing that we normally work with is just measure everything. Right? Measure everything, and then you can figure out what the actual metrics of your business are. Right? You may measure things that you won't use, but you know, a metric is essentially a math problem between two measurements. Okay. And you'll discover all sorts of things. So when I'm talking to somebody and they do quoting, like, you know, if it's a builder or whatever, I just say to them, so who pays for all the quotes that you don't win? And they go, what? And I said, well, if your win rate is 80% of the quotes that you put out, well, you spent time producing the 20% that you didn't get, who paid for that? And then they realized that they haven't put enough admin time. And I said, you know, you're doing that. I can't get the plumber to come to my house without paying a call-out fee. And whether I use them or not doesn't matter, but he didn't lose time by coming at the house. So there's all these little nuances. So when you're measuring everything, then you can say, oh, okay. Like I have one client in New Zealand at the moment, when we're measuring everything, we're looking at exactly that. We're measuring how long it takes. So they put out quotes, they're a signage company, how long it takes to get a definitive answer on the quote. Yes, no, or we're going to do it later. Not how many we win, that's part and parcel, that's a side effect. But how long does it take us to get that answer? Because when I started working with them, well, what about all these quotes? Oh, we never heard back from them, so we figured we didn't get it. When we started calling some of those people, and now we're using AI to extract that information and help us accelerate the list of people we call, we find, oh, I meant to get to it and I didn't, right? So that's a really important thing. But, you know, even that little nuance there about, you know, who pays for the quotes you didn't win, super, super important. Is everybody tracking with that stuff now? Because there's a different way of looking at your business that most people don't. And even at that base layer, what's the model for success? What's what's your center of gravity in terms of the clients you're working with? Are you building your business based on your client's success or just the metrics that you want to use? And this is not putting poo on anybody, but I'm just saying that if you really want to be successful, I mean, you know, for me, every client that becomes a one-on-one client with me ends up getting the result. I don't even have a website at the moment. All my business comes to me by referrals and introductions because people know that, okay, you work with Azim, you do the work with him, we will get the result, whatever that looks like for you. And that's why they call me gift wrapped in sandpaper, because I tell it how it is sometimes, right? Okay. So AI is really going to, when you change the way you think about how you do your business and have all the fundamentals in place, it is an amazing tool. We are living in a freaking amazing age that we have access to that. Right? Use it the wrong way. Use it just to search or, you know, and I'm going to raise your reticular activating system now, because you look at the number of businesses out there that all of a sudden have added AI to what they're doing. Right? Oh, well, now with, you know, so it's like the old dishwashing detergent, you know, now with extra bubbles. It's like now with AI, right? It seems to be the catch call of so many people, like it makes a difference. But people don't realize that, okay, the large language models and the AI and all that sort of stuff that's happening there is a super powerful tool, but just like you can use it in the sense of what we were talking about before about a model for success. You could take your business, So Anthony, right, because you've got the giant banner behind you, come off mute for a second. So if you were describing your business to me, not your elevator pitch, don't give me that, right? I've got a fun elevator pitch, by the way, if we can share that later. But describe to me what your business does.
So I look at a bit like yourself. I think I look at it from the client point of view and what they're going through. So often they'll be going through a lot of stress. They won't be having a lot of time with their loved ones, and they're keeping awake at night. So they're the issues they're going through themselves. So I'm not trying to sell like a specific product. I'm trying to help them get out of what they're feeling.
Yep. Yeah. So yes, we are very similar in that sense, right?
Yeah.
So
I love the way you're saying it's all about success for the client and whatever that means for the client.
Yeah.
It's not really for us to tell the client what success is. It's really about them, what their success is. So yeah, I love the way you put that across.
And so many people make that assumption.
Mm.
You know, I mean, I have a small mastermind group, and originally it was it's businesses in beast mode, and the original premise was to take it from 6 figures to 7 figures, right?
Yeah.
But I say, come on board. I say, okay, that's just the marketing hook, and we have 3 success waypoints. The first one is you make $100,000 profit. The second one is you make $100,000 profit after you pay yourself.
Yeah.
And the third one, because you've already done the first 2, is that you can be away from the operation of your business and it will run reliably without you. So you get to do the magic, which is you, whether it's your
Yeah.
So the example I have is I know a lady personally. She makes about $860,000 a year. She has an interior design business. She flies all over the world with her daughter. She's got someone operations to assemble thing. She pays herself over $100,000. There's over $100,000 left. It's not a 7-figure business. And she is so happy, right?
Yeah.
So everyone has this, oh, you got to have a 7-figure business, cool. So if we took what you do and you framed it in a document, right, then you could put that into chat, into name, right? You can do a model of your business, put that into chat or Perplexity, whatever, and say, okay, given everything that I've got here and what I'm doing, how does this compare to the top 1% of businesses that do what I do?
Yeah.
And as I said before, take popcorn. Okay.
Yeah.
And it will come up with something. And then what you can do is you save that and then go back against it. And then you're starting to find out where the holes or areas that you could potentially improve that maybe your blind spots. Right.
Exactly.
And that's why
that's right. I've never thought of it that way, so it's a fantastic way of looking at it and getting AI to actually ask you the questions, because it's all about the questions, isn't it? You know, and
absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, you could even ask it saying, hey, this is what I do. So give it your elevator pitch and then say, ask me one question at a time about what I do.
Yeah. And
it'll ask you questions that probably a cross-section of people over the last 5 years have asked you. Right? That's what I mean. That's super powerful stuff. Because then you're using it the way it really, really works. And as I said, you know, so that's why I don't call myself a coach. I call myself a business success accelerator. I practice business success. Whatever success looks like for you, I work with you to get there faster. Yeah. Right. And that's actually a whole new category I'm creating around it. Because that's what we should be doing. We shouldn't be there teaching or advising, we should be doing it. So there's an exercise for you, right? But everybody else could do the same thing. Right. Now, you know, the people, especially like Alan's got a very unique specialty about what he does, but I'm sure there's other people that do similar things to what you do, Alan, maybe not as good as you, but in a similar field, right? And he could do the same thing. So what I'm getting at is the power for everybody on this call is just put in what your offer is and how you would talk to people or your elevator pitch. And there is so much behind it, right? Now, I shared with Nick a funny thing that happened to me when I was in San Francisco, which I'll share on the call, is I was out with a bunch of other advisors, and we were talking about elevator pitches. I like to call them elevator ditches, by the way, because people get stuck into them and they refine them. And have you ever noticed that when you go into any sort of program where anyone's coaching you about your elevator pitch, this beautiful statement that you make, have you actually ever noticed that when you actually meet somebody and they ask you what you do, you never say that thing? Very few people actually say what their rehearsed pitch is when they meet with somebody. And if they do, you're all going to look out for this next time. Next time you're at a BX meeting or a network meeting, whatever it is, or BNI meeting, have a look at the person that they're talking to. Because 9 times out of 10, if they do say their whole pitch, the look on the person's face, and I won't drop the F-bomb on your show, Nick, is like, what the F are they talking about? We've all seen that, right? And Alan, you would have a ball with that, watching the faces in that situation when someone said. So I was out with a bunch of advisors. We've been just chatting about it, and one of them lived in San Francisco and introduced me to somebody else who they thought might, they worked in a particular area, and they thought, well, I might be able to help with them. And this gentleman said, "So Azim, lovely to meet you. What is it that you do?" And as I said to Nick, probably someone with my personality can get away with this. I just said, "Look, I don't know. What is it that you need?" And he went, "Well, I need more sales." I said, "That's the thing I do." Right? And he started laughing. And then I said, "But your lack of sales or your need for more sales is probably a symptom of something else that's wrong in your business." And that immediately said, "Let's have lunch and talk about it." And it turned out it was, right? And he said, "Well, what do you mean?" When I said that, I said, "Well, has every headache you've ever had in your life because somebody bumped you on the head?" And he said, "Well, no, of course not." I said, "There you go." And then we had a chat, right? Because in reality, for a lot of us, that's exactly what we do, what the client needs, right? And if you do that, then you will. We've got frameworks and stuff, so we do that, And we'll take more questions, Nick. But I'd just like to say, like on that, and one of my old mentors, Alex Mendosian, had this great saying, which I use over and over again over the last 10 years: is the only thing worse than heading off in the wrong direction is heading off in the wrong direction enthusiastic. Right. And that is so true. So let's open the floor for questions, Nick, because I think I've kicked a few brains around tonight to look at AI in a different way and to understand that if the fundamentals aren't there, forget it. It's not going to save anybody. Right. Yes, you can query it. What should I do about this? Or what does a top company do when they've got a cash flow issue? Absolutely, you can do that. Right. But use it for what it's really powerful. Get it to be your thought partner rather than just a search engine. Open for questions, Nick.
All right, there's a couple in, probably all comments actually in chat there from, what have we got? Dennis there is, I just added this question into ChatGPT. How do I compare to the top 1% of businesses globally that do what I do? Really interesting results.
And how did you go? Yeah, it's interesting. So I like what this is what it said. Okay, final question: how do you compare? You already operate on a top 5-10% level globally, no question. With refinement, systemization, elevation of visibility and reach, you can absolutely ascend into the top 1% bracket. So, Dennis, you know what you got to do next, mate. That's what I mean.
It's already given me everything I need to do, and it's shown me the gaps, and it's shown me how I can close it. But it already knows what I'm already planning around programs and so forth. And so it just says if you do those things, plus do this, plus do that, you'll start to see things change for you. It's pretty good.
And then when you go back to it, so take that answer, and then ask me one question at a time about things that are potentially not working in the business at the moment.
Okay.
Right. As I said, take popcorn to that one because it'll ask questions. And so using different models, I don't know how familiar everybody is. One of the reasons I like using Perplexity and Chat at the same time, off each other, is Perplexity is a great research tool. And it's really good at a model at finding stuff out, but also when you do a search on Perplexity, even on the free version, it gives you 5 or 6 questions at the end, which is probably the questions you should be asking it. Right? It gives you some alternatives, which is really powerful stuff. And I like the annotations. But yeah, just like everybody can do what we've just done there. And then, then when you put your plan in, Dennis, of, okay, well, these are the things I need to do, you can then get it to analyze your plan and your time frame. Say, okay, I'm planning to do this over the next quarter. Am I doing the right things in the right order? Right? You could ask it that. And then you can get it to play the part of your potential of what you think is your perfect client. And here's the beauty. On the assumption that everybody on here has had a client at some point in time. Right? We don't have any brand newbies in the field that we may, but obviously working on that assumption. You can actually look at your old client's results. Right? You can look at communications from your old clients in terms of how they were talking to you, right? You can use that to model. So I did this with one prospect actually recently, and as a result, they probably turned into a client. I got her to describe who her perfect client of all time was. And I said, hey, do you have all the email exchanges from that person? And she did. It was like almost a year's worth of email exchanges. So we coalesced all of that into a document, got Perplexity to use that document as the source, and then she now was able to basically do a bit of a personality profile on the document and the way that her client spoke. And now she's actually changed some of her messaging so that she can attract that sort of person again. Now, first of all, she wouldn't have thought to have done it. Second of all, she would have needed a team of VAs to actually go through all of that information and doing it in the time that we did it in. So that's what I'm talking about, accelerated. So got a couple like that. Any other questions, right? So Anthony's had to go off, that's okay. What's Paul said? What is it that you do? What is it that you need? Yeah, I need more sales. Yeah, that's what I do. Let's talk, all right? Love it. Yeah, good on you. But it's true. Like, unless you've got some commodity, generally we do what we need to do. What else have we got, Nick? Anything else that we want to talk about or hypothetically?
I'm just curious about your observations on how people are using ChatGPT and how to sort of really sort of turn that around. Well, we know how you turn it around in terms of using it as a partner, but how typically are they using it before they get into this sort of conversation?
Well, first of all, very few people that I've ever met actually have had this conversation. Right? The majority of people I see, and a lot of it is the result of the internet marketing machine that's out there, are using it to create content. Okay. What they forget is that, so example, when I use that example of what's my opinion on business, and they came up with, it actually picks up things from way back that I was on a podcast, which I probably wouldn't agree with anymore. And what a lot of people don't realize is all the AI tools can hallucinate. So they can actually make stuff up based on some nuances of what you said. So you really have to be careful about reviewing what was said. So the way I'm seeing a lot of people using AI is they're saying, okay, so when you demonstrated one of the tools there before, and you said, hey, I've got to go back and check it for things, is a lot of people are taking their hands off the wheel. They're saying, okay, even if I have a great tool, say, okay, that's a podcast that I did, create some content, some blog posts that I can use. They're just cutting and pasting those things. And it's actually hurting them. Because here's the thing is, when you publish a blog post, the next time you use AI, it's going to reference the blog post that you just posted as well. It's including that into the model. So it progressively gets worse. Okay. So I am seeing a lot of that. I am seeing people just using it, as I say, it's just just to search, what can I do? And it really boils down to, it's not about being the smartest person in the room, it's about asking the smartest question. Once you frame what it is that you really want to know, that's what you should be asking AI. But yeah, I just see people saying, oh, we've got to use AI. And as I said, so many businesses saying, oh, now with AI kind of thing, now with more bubbles. And it's just like, and that demonstration we just spoke about Google, I'm really interested to see how that all pans out.
I'm sort of also curious about two things. One, when you're pumping AI content out into the ether there to be picked up by the search engines, that gets fed back into the AI machine to then reference as the truth or the material that you're researching and searching on. And so then you can get some distortions there. The other thing that has really been happening is the people are replacing critical thought and discoveries, like internal discoveries about those connections that you make. Oh, this happened and the result was this here. So that's I've now made a connection there that's now going to help me to never do that again, but to do things sort of say quite differently. So in one sense, if you're using AI to as your business partner or your thinking partner and as the search engine, then you start to miss out on the revelations that you make, which are personal revelations that help you in life and business and really to make some more insightful decisions to help you to become the future self that sits on your board that has got some wisdom there to feed into the decisions that you're making
I thought that was a pretty cool thing to do, actually. But here's the interesting thing about what you just said. If we were all sitting we're all sitting in a group here, and we start having a discussion about a strategy or whatever, we're not all going to just run off and do what everybody else says. But that's what people are doing with the AI. They're assuming it is the truth. And it's not, and it's totally fallible because it's made up of, it's a large language model of everything that we've ever printed. And as you say, it becomes a repeatable thing. So used with caution, it's super powerful. Like the one I'm using, which doesn't leak out anywhere, where it can craft emails in my voice and whatever for me to review and then decide whether that's a great draft for the non-critical stuff, right? It's just, answers and stuff. So you were about to say something here.
Yeah, I was just going to say, sort of as you talked about early on about business fundamentals, so there are things that happen, people doing things, the right things in the wrong order, and there are specific things that need to happen to build and grow a business. But with some of the AI tools, you can actually start to get some of that information out of that now, I would think. How does that leave you as a business consultant, business coach? How has it affected or changed what you do and how you do it, apart from having the tool at your disposal?
Well, okay, so first of all, having those tools at my disposal really helps me have a conversation with a very intelligent thought partner, which has access to everything that's ever happened in that particular space with the client that I'm working with, which then equips me with some really great talking points when I'm speaking to my client. Okay, things that I may not have thought of. So where do you go? Will that ever replace me? Will a client ever replace me with AI? No. First of all, because I have great clients, right? But second of all, I actually often will say to them, take that to Perplexity and have a conversation with it around that. So the value they get, so here's a really interesting context, which a lot of people, they always laugh when you go to, somebody's webinar or whatever, and says, there's this and it's $5 million worth of value, but today it's $27.50, right? All this sort of thing. Is we can't actually give value, we can only receive it. The Ferrari is only valuable to the person who purchased it. Right? It's a really important nuance. So when these people say, I'm going to give all this value, whatever, that's rubbish. If I don't think what you're saying to me is valuable, it's not valuable. Right? Why would I buy a Ferrari just to go to milk, get the milk, whatever it is? So it doesn't have that value. So your point, Nick, I try to work with my clients to help them get the result, and those nuances and those being able to work at almost like the personal levels. You're not going to see AI replace that. When I have clients ring me to tell me that their wife just had a baby, because we have this relationship as a trusted advisor to them, and most of my clients are with me for at least 3 years, that won't be replaced by AI. But if I were a commodity, if I was just starting out today, let's wind back 10 years, if I was just starting out today, I would be working my backside off to make sure that I was delivering value at a personal level, not just information. Okay, so important, so important. Does that answer the question, Nick?
Yes, it does. And in fact, one of the changes that I have noticed is that information has lost its real value. Like you can't hold on to information. You can't sell information. That is really going. That game is really going, if it's not already gone. But what you can do is to curate a community and discussion and forums where people can actually share common experience, shared emotional experiences, all of that sort of thing there. Now, you can't get that off AI. So I think, as far as business is concerned, if there was one thing that I talk to businesses about, is how are you creating a community in whatever it is that you offer, because that's what people are essentially looking for now, and that's what they're paying for.
Because at the end of the day, what we all crave as human beings is some sort of connection. We want to be connected to other people. People like us as self-guidance, people like us do things like this, right? So here we are in a community talking, having a conversation about this sort of thing. And I think that the reality is anybody in any sort of advisory space, at the end of the day, so for example, I see people with KPIs, like they like to call them, says, oh, well, I want to get this many clients and do this many calls and whatever. That's really key, it's a key result of something that you're doing. So for me, my key performance indicator when I'm actually out looking for clients is how many conversations did I have with people. So I used to have a goal of having, and I still have it, I had one conversation a day on average with someone who could use my help, or whether they're going to be a client or not, doesn't matter. My goal is to have one conversation every day with someone who I can provide an insight to that will help them, or potentially they might be a client. And you know what? Like that's 5 conversations. Well, I don't include the weekend, but usually end up more, but it's at least 5 conversations a week. And if anyone's in a space of delivering services, if you want yourself to have, what's your KPI? How many freaking conversations did you have? Right. And you will quickly find that doesn't take long before it starts adding up into people making inquiries and people talking to you and people wanting to engage you. And AI won't replace that. Right. It could lead you to the conversation, but even that is an interest. So like I said, I don't run a website at the moment. I use various things, but all of my business comes from introductions and referrals. Now, that didn't happen overnight, right? But that's what happens. So I have conversations. Great. I'm very blessed and I'm very grateful for what I get to do.
And it's funny you should say that too, because even though I've got lots of apps and tools and programs and that sort of thing, most of my business, when I look at it, doesn't come through the website. It really comes through conversations as well too. And one just today, a conversation I had over 12 months ago, and it comes back into the world. So I think you're right. Well, that's all we've got. Sorry,
I was going to say, just to finish on that note about regenerating old people is, just a quick little tip for everybody. Find old clients that you worked with and had success with, that are no longer in class for whatever reason. Send them a gratitude letter. and send them a note and say, hey, Nick, just thinking about the work we did 5 or 6 years ago. I just want to say thank you for engaging with me and glad we were able to do that work together. That's all you need to say. First of all, it's a great thing because you really are grateful for it. And second of all, you would be surprised how many referrals you get out of that.
Mm.
Did you send a gratitude letter? That's my hot tip for the day, Nick. Send a gratitude
Fabulous. Well, that's the final hot tip. That was you just getting the last word in. I was hoping to have the last word, but you got
letter.
there.
You can now. We've still got 2 minutes to go.
I'll let you have it. But yeah, lots of hot tips, and in fact, I was just tapping them all out on my phone as you were talking, and posted up onto LinkedIn at the same time. But lots and lots of gold there. So thanks very much for that random thought across email, and for the discussion that you've brought us to tonight. So there is a door prize tonight as well too. Which is, what is it?
What is it?
Yeah.
You get to spend 2 hours with me,
Fabulous.
not the AI version.
Well, in fact, probably get to spend, 2 hours with you and then another 4 hours with Perplexity.
Probably. Yeah. No, but no, seriously, we get to spend 2 hours with me and we'll actually dive into your business and see where I can assist you and point you in the right direction and all that sort of thing. And as I said, there's nothing for sale, it's just purely down to go.
Fabulous. And before we draw that, anyone wants to have a conversation with you, contact you, connect with you, what's the best way to do that?
We're actually sending a link in the follow-up email that will actually have a thing to just grab a half an hour with me, just a quick call if they want to do, or you just grab me on LinkedIn.
Fabulous. Yes, the link will be in the email that's going to go out in about an hour's time. It's already pre-programmed, but we've automated all that side of things there. So you can go and click on that and book there with Azim. And in fact, it's in chat now too. So there we go. That wasn't automated. That was a human. All right. Well, let's go and draw that door prize. Don't disappear right now. If you want to sort of have a couple of hours with Azim, really workshopping your business, your name is in the draw. So let's spin the wheel and see who our winner is. Remember, you've got to be in the room to win, so don't leave. All right, wheel is going around. Virtual drum roll, and see who it lands on tonight. Actually, I need to get everyone up, and it is Wesley Chan. Are you in the room, Wesley? Let's just have a look. Just having a look.
No, I think we're going to spin again.
I think he's dropped out. All right, so we've got second time lucky. Let's spin it again and see who our second round is. And it's Hezibul. Are you still here, Hezibul? Yeah, introduce yourself at the beginning.
Yeah, start.
Oh, he's disappeared as well too.
Oh, spin again.
Might be nighttime there. All
Yeah,
right, let's spin it one more time.
Put my name on it. Maybe I can win my own prize.
Actually, we're going to keep doing this until we get down to one person. All right, Sam. Are you in the room, Sam? Sam's not here. All right, let's spin it one more time.
Spin it one more time.
So whoever's remaining gets 2 hours with them.
That's it. That's it. That's it, Dennis.
That's it. Bruce Kennedy.
Yeah, we have a winner. He's there. He's waving.
Fabulous. I can see the hand there. Excellent.
That's great. I'll look forward to that.
That'll be good. So you'll get a link, and then we can set up a time together, Bruce. And so just to give me a bit of background, what's your business, Bruce?
I raise capital for startups.
Oh, awesome! I love it. The guy I was just working with overseas, he's taken 12 companies to over $1 billion in valuation or revenue. So we'll have a great conversation.
Sounds good. Where are you based?
Sydney. What about yourself?
Okay, I'm in Brisbane.
Okay, that's okay. I'll be up there soon. So, but we can have a chat.
Sounds great. Look forward.
Look forward to it, Bruce.
Fabulous. Well done. Excellent. Well worth coming along tonight, Bruce. I'm glad to see you here tonight. I don't know whether you're working or not, but that's the problem when we've got computer screens in front of us. But that is our show tonight. Remember to save the chat with those 3 little dots on the top right-hand side. Got the apps and tools and all the other bits and pieces in there. If there was you wanted to connect with anyone, and they've dropped their details in there, that is in there as well too. So once again, thanks Azim for coming on as the main billing rather than sort of sitting in the background tonight. I've got a couple of pages worth of notes here, so I'll be setting up my virtual board, I think, in ChatGPT or
I thought you were
Perplexity.
going to say you're going to get AI to give you a summary of the evening.
Yeah, I'll probably do that as well too. Excellent. All right, well, that's our session tonight. Remember, this will be on YouTube tomorrow if you want to send anyone there or want to watch it again. But apart from that, thanks everyone for coming along, and we'll see you again next week. Have a good night.
Everybody. Great to
Thanks,
see you
Nick.
all.
Thanks,
Cheers.
Azim. Great value as always.
Thanks, Alan.
Cheers, mate.
Thank you for tuning in and listening to the Business Owners Smashing It Online podcast. You can also find me on social media and online. Just search for Business Owners Smashing It Online and Nick Cree, spelled Nickcree, all one word. If you like this and want to hear more, subscribe now. Until next time, don't be a slave to your business. Get your business working for you.